I hate to break it to you, but Europe is the source of every evil. If you're not convinced, let me read the numbers for you so you could gain a perspective. When European colonizers discovered America, how do you discover a continent that was home to 80 million native Indians? When European colonizers invaded, occupied, and attempted to colonize America, they killed 56 million native Indians. That is close to 90% of the original population of the people, the original people of America. 56 million. When Europeans colonized Australia, they annihilated 90% of the Aboriginal people living in Australia. In World War I, 40 million people were killed by Europeans. In World War II, 80 million people were killed by Europeans. During the slave trade, European traders, European colonizers enslaved 12 million Africans, 2.5 million of which were killed, died during the harsh and brutal voyage to the Americas. King Leopold of Belgium killed 10 million Africans in the Congo alone.
And let's not forget the Herero and the Nama people that were genocided by the Germans. The Germans massacred approximately 100,000 of them between 1904 to 1907. This genocide, by the way, for those of us who don't know, was in fact the first genocide of the 20th century. And let's also not forget what the Italians did to the Ethiopians and how they unalived them. Some sources say approximately 2 million Ethiopians died at the hands of the Italians, and other sources gave a death toll range of 275,000 to approximately 800,000. And all of this happened under Mussolini. And then there is what the French did to the Malagasy people of Madagascar. And the estimated death toll is 100,000. But many Malagasy believe this to be an underestimate of the actual number of Malagasy people that got unalived at the hands of the French. And then there is the Algerian genocide still done by the French, where at least 45,000 Algerians were massacred. And then there was the genocide of the people who are now known today as Tanzanians. And this genocide was carried out by the, again, Germans. And the death toll is said to be about 300,000. Now, I know, unfortunately, we cannot exactly go through every single, in quotes, country as we know of these places today, or ethnicities, communities, and talk about how much people were unalived in these places, because for one, we don't even have all of the data for all these unalivings and genocides, because not many of them were even really documented like that. But it has been estimated that about 100 million Africans died at the hands of them folks.
1.7 million people were killed during the European Crusades to invade Jerusalem, the holy city. 3.8 million people were killed during the Vietnam War by the Americans, which are originally Europeans. 250,000, that is 250,000 civilians were killed by Americans, which are originally Europeans, of course, when they dropped 2 bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki in Japan. 3 million Algerians were killed by the French during the French occupation of Algeria. 3 million Muslim Algerians were killed in Algeria during the French occupation of Algeria. 750,000 Muslims were slaughtered and killed in cold blood in Libya by the Italians when they occupied Libya. 4.5 million Muslims were killed by the US during their unjustified war against different Muslim countries from the Middle Eastern region.
See, I like this breakdown that he's doing because it really puts into perspective the gravity of the crimes of these people and how insane and immoral and just brutal and barbaric they have been over the centuries. And it really is quite ironic because now they like to paint other groups of people as the terrorists, as the criminals, as the this, that, and the third, the backward groups of people, the uncivilized, the uncouth. But when you start to look at the numbers like this, when you look at the stats, it really is crazy, and you start to see the projection that's going on here, right? But I'm not even going to be getting into all of that right now in this video because I really want people to focus on the numbers. I want people to focus on the stats. So many people globally died at the hands of one group of people. That is crazy. Focusing on the numbers like this, and I know this might be too much piling on in one video. I understand that it might be a lot to swallow all of this in the moment, especially maybe if you are just coming by these numbers for the first time. So I'm sorry if this was too much for you to handle in one sitting because it can get overwhelming, these details, right? But these are conversations that we need to have. These are perspectives we need to start bringing into this conversation so people can start to really understand the gravity of exactly what went down at the scale that it went down, because the numbers, it's crazy, and it really paints the picture of exactly what we have been dealing with here on earth with them folks, and how we can't even say these things they only happened in the past, let's move on, because they are still happening in 2024. Look at what's happening over there in Palestine. That's them still in 2024 in our quote-unquote modern era, in our quote-unquote civilized era, in our quote-unquote progressive era. They are still participating in this behavior. Look at what's happening in Congo. Look at what's happening in Sudan. We can still list places that crazy ish is going down still. So it's like we are in this very sad, annoying, unfortunate loop with these people that none of us want to be in, but we are just continuously finding ourselves in this loop, having to deal with this wickedness. And it's very, very sad. This vicious circle of inhumanity and unnecessary wars, unnecessary exploitation that these people participate in for very selfish reasons, because none of this have to happen. But somehow it's like it's the only way. Violence is the only way they know. Unaliving people unnecessarily is the only way they know. So we find ourselves in this annoying, wicked, backward and traumatizing pattern. Like, when would it end?
Europeans have killed more people than the flood of Noah. I mean, Europeans have killed more people than natural disasters. Europeans have killed more innocent people from all around the world than anything else and anyone else. And then they come and they call every single nation and every single resistance, lawful resistance from every single nation that has fought back against their tyranny, against their occupation, against their oppression, and against their invasion, and against their attempt to enslave these people. They call these resistant movements and lawful resistant people terrorists, barbarians. I mean, the native Indians were called barbarians. The same goes for the Aboriginals of Australia. And the same goes in South Africa, by the way, which I forgot to mention. And by the way, Israel killed 1 million Palestinians since 1947. 1 million Palestinians were killed by the European Zionists who came from Europe to occupy Palestine. And they made 7 million Palestinians refugees outside Palestine, and there are 7 million Palestinian refugees still living in Palestine today, 2.4 million of which live in Gaza. And by the way, all 2.4 million Palestinians living in Gaza are actually refugees who have been displaced from different parts of Palestine, during the Israeli genocidal war and occupation that has lasted for 76 years. And then they dare call the Hamas resistant movement, the lawful resistant movement, Hamas, terrorist. They have called every single resistant movement all around the world terrorists, rebellions, barbarians, fanatics, Islamists, extremists, just because they fought back against the tyranny and oppression of these colonizing countries, these Western colonizing countries who attempted to colonize their countries, invade their countries, occupy their countries, exploit their resources, enslave the nation of these countries. Every time we fight back against their tyranny and oppression, we are called terrorists, we are called fanatics, we are called Islamists, we are called barbarians, because we want to live the same way they live. We want to liberate our country. We want to liberate our families from the shackles of enslavement of the violent, aggressive occupier. It is shameful, really, because millions of Americans and Europeans, believe the crap that is told on Zionist media in America and Europe, and they continue to push their agenda and spread their lies, as if Muslims do not have the right to exist, as if other nations do not have the right to exist. Only Europeans have the right to exist. And this derives from their hateful, discriminative mentality, which they have adopted from their Bible, by the way. If you read the Bible, you'll understand that this is not a book from God. It has enticed violence, it has enticed racism, it has encouraged these Zionist Europeans to continue to enslave other nations, to continue to belittle other nations of different races, different colors, different religions. Read the Bible, you'll understand this is the source of their evil, and it's not because it's from God. The Bible is not from God. The Bible is a man-made written book, written by the same exact people who are occupying nations, who are enslaving people, who are committing genocide and committing ethnic cleansing against people from different parts of the world, and not just Palestine. Please spread the video. Let people know the numbers. Let people understand. Let people gain perspective.
So yeah, guys, that's the video. I don't want to talk too much here at the end because all that needs to be said has been said. But I really want to share this video on here because he's sharing truth, and I love the perspective of numbers that he brought into the conversation. So yeah, I'm going to just end the video here, not to make this video too long, because lately my recent videos have been quite long, and that's because I really could not help it with those videos. They just had to be long because so much had to be incorporated into the video because of the kind of conversation that was being had, or conversations rather, that were being had in those videos. Anyway, enough of me rambling. I'm going to be ending this video right here, but I do want to hear though what your thoughts are, opinions are. Let's continue this conversation down below in the comment section. Thank you very much for watching, and of course, as always, I'll be catching you in the next one.